WOVU LP, Cleveland.
This is Open Door with Vince Robinson. In-depth conversations with people who are making a difference in the lives of others here and around the world. Culture is at the heart of who you are. Know your culture, find yourself on Open Door with Vince Robinson.
Greetings and salutations. Vince Robinson here with another edition of Open Door with Vince Robinson. My guest this morning is a very important person in Cleveland, Ohio. He is kind of a movement of sorts. I had the privilege of documenting a podcast that he was a part of with Carol Malone on her platform, which is Neighbor Up Spotlight. The interview was just so inspiring. I decided at that point I had to share it with my listening audience. So here we are. My guest this morning is Mr. Waverly Willis. Welcome to Open Door, Brother Waverly.
Hey, I appreciate you having me, man. It was great to meet you. I had heard great things about you, so it was an honor to finally meet you in person. So I appreciate you again having me on your show.
Well, Brother Waverly, I have to tell you, I was just so impressed with your story, and it kind of mirrors a lot of the stories that we do on this program. My intention with Open Door is to share success stories with the world so that folks know that there are important people who are doing important things in their communities. And as I heard your story, it was just the epitome of what I try to depict with this show. So it is definitely an honor to have you on the show. I want to congratulate you on your success up front and just let you know that I appreciate what you do, and I'm sure that Cleveland does as well.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
So why don't we start with your story, and then after we get past that, we can talk about all the great things that you're doing. You are the owner of Urban Kutz Barbershop, but you also have provided access to medical and mental health services for clients who come to your store. You've been honored by Nick Cannon. You appeared on his show, and literally the world knows about Waverly Willis. So Cleveland should definitely know about Waverly Willis. So the story it's a tearjerker, and I'll get some tissues because I don't want to, be running tears down my face while we're listening to this. But just tell us about your story, and then we'll move forward to the great things that you're doing in Cleveland.
I'm a Cleveland kid. Technically, I'm from East Cleveland. I went to Shaw High School. Came out of Shaw in '89. I had a very good childhood. I kind of led a double life, as I got older and into junior high and high school. I made good grades, attended school, had a good relationship with teachers as well as my other my friends. But it was poor. I didn't know we were poor. We had everything that we needed. But I fell victim to the new clothes and the nice cars that the neighborhood drug dealers had. So I started selling drugs when I was in high school. My mom was a single parent, and she worked a lot, like everyone in that demographic. And pretty much I went to school, and my friends and we sold dope after school. I did very well in sports. I ended up getting a scholarship to Kent State in football, and I expanded my operation into Kent, Ohio. But I broke the cardinal sin of any drug dealer, which was, don't get high on your own supply. I was one of those smart people that decided to try it. I was selling crack at the time, and it always made me wonder what made these people bring me their car keys or bring me their wife's engagement ring or wedding ring. And again, I was one of the smart people that said, I'll try it, but I won't get hooked. Every drug addict no one plans to wake up and be a drug addict. And I tried it, and I got hooked on it. I got hooked on it to the point that I ended up dropping out of school, moved back to Cleveland. I got hooked on it to the point that I was what they would call severely homeless. Not homeless like sleeping on friends and family members' couches. I was homeless as in I was the guy in downtown Cleveland at the Greyhound bus station picking up cigarette butts off the ground. I was the guy with the cup in his hand as you would walk past me, asking you for change. And in the evening time on 18th and Superior and other spots around downtown Cleveland, you see the people in the wintertime laying on the grates with the steam coming up, and they had cardboard on top of them. I was that guy. I slept on the streets. I slept in various homeless shelters throughout Cleveland. I've lost, after I moved back, I wasn't homeless, of course. I've lost homes, cars, failed relationships, family relationships. I lost everything. The only thing that I did not sell was my clippers. Cutting hair has been a passion of mine since I was a kid. I remember when I was a young boy, my mom, again, single parent, she had 3 boys and 1 girl. She couldn't afford to take us to the barbershop. And she sat me down to do my bi-weekly or monthly haircut. And she used to cut our hair, and she used to do a really, really, really bad job at it. And so I asked her if I could cut my hair, my own hair. She didn't care as long as it gets cut. And so I was probably the most well-groomed drug addict that you would see. So oftentimes when I would be at the bus stops or at the Greyhound station, the RTA station, wherever, people would compliment me on how well-groomed my beard was. And I would let them know that, I could give them a quick lineup or a quick haircut right there on the spot. So I would cut hair in the Greyhound station and the RTA station, restaurant bathrooms. It didn't matter. And I was, I would make $5 or $10, and I would take a couple dollars of that money and buy me a small piece of crack. And then the other part, I would buy me a shorty shorty is slang for pint, for those of you that don't know, of Mad Dog 2020 or Wild Irish Rose. And so that was just my day-to-day life.
If I could interrupt, Brother Waverly, if you were medicating yourself to the point that you were, it was the alcohol, it was the crack, there must have been something that caused you to have pain that you wanted to, I guess, distract yourself from. Do you know what that was?
That's a good question. And it wasn't until after I got out of drug and alcohol treatment that I had the aha moment with that. Because again, at the beginning, you heard me say I had a good childhood. But now that thought had crossed my mind, the question you just asked me, I grew up in a house prior to my mother and father divorcing that was not filled with, but it was a lot of domestic violence going on. And I used to literally witness my father beating my mom. I remember very vividly, it was something silly that my father was angry about, and he grabbed my mom by her hair, and he banged it against the countertop in the kitchen, and it was blood everywhere. And, he left out, and my mom and I, we cleaned up that blood. And that really didn't click in till, again, after treatment. And I think it's because, when I was in treatment, I was in there with so many guys. That was a tragedy of my childhood, but I was in there with so many guys that had it a lot worse from, family members urinating or worse in their mouths, just rabid incest, just really, really, really harsh things. So I guess that domestic violence that I endured as a kid might have been part of that. But again, it really didn't unlock until after treatment, you know. And maybe just, seeing my mom struggle. She was sick. And I mean, not to mention, it was definitely drug and alcohol use. In my family and genealogy, in my genetic makeup, we have a history of drug and alcohol abuse.
So you decided at one point that you wanted to go into treatment, and I really want to dive into what the treatment is like and how that manages to pull you out and put you on a path to sobriety. I think it's really important. As we have this conversation, I'm just reflecting on a play that I just witnessed called The Phoenix Society. It was written by Peter Lawson Jones, and it was commissioned by Life Exchange Center, which is an agency locally that assists people who are recovering from alcohol dependency and drug dependency and mental health issues. And, as I hear your story, I can see how they benefit from that process. And I can also see how you benefited from that process. So if you don't mind, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back and talk about what treatment looks like, and also that pivotal moment in your life when you decided that you had to make those changes. Because, as I heard that story, it was just such a striking story. I think it offers hope to people who have been where you've been, but need some type of hope to know that they can recover from the depths of depression or whatever that thing might be that holds them down, so that they can understand that there is a process and that they can recover. So if you don't mind, we'll do that.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
You're listening to and watching Open Door with Vince Robinson. My guest is Waverly Willis. He's the owner of Urban Kutz Barbershop. And as I said before, he is the initiator of a movement that is quite successful in assisting folks in getting access to mental health services and physical health services. So we're going to dive more into this conversation when we return. This is 95.9 FM WOVU, Burton Bell Carr Community Radio. We'll be back in a few.
Hi, this is Wanda Harris from Warrensville Heights, Ohio, and you're listening to the best radio station in Cleveland, WOVU 95.9 FM, Burton Bell Carr Community Radio.
Welcome back to Open Door with Vince Robinson. My guest is Waverly Willis. He is the owner of Urban Kutz Barbershop. He was a guest on the Nick Cannon Show, and I'm going to get into a conversation about that. I'm sure it was as exciting for him as it is for us to witness or have witnessed that. And I did see it on YouTube. Quite impressed, man. See somebody that I know on that international stage. It's a great thing, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes. So when we interrupted the conversation, we were just talking about the fact that you went through a treatment process. And I wanted to get an idea from you. What was it that was the impetus for you to seek treatment? And what was the treatment like as you were going through?
Well, the impetus for me to seek treatment, what I just previously described to you was basically my day-to-day. I kind of stumbled across financial aid to get into barber school. Again, that was definitely one of my passions since I was a kid. But I met my first sponsor in barber college. And to put things in perspective, I'm also an instructor at a barber college. It takes about a year to graduate from barber college. It took me 2.5 years. Because half of that I was literally half the time sleeping down the street at the bus stop that down the street from the barber college I went to. I was still addicted. And so my first sponsor, his name was Odie Burton, God rest his soul. he used to approach me. I used to be in the back of the school. You know, I smelled like last night's crack, alcohol. Wrinkled up. Just, you know, I smelled like a homeless person, to be quite frank. Um, and he used to approach me. You know, in the streets, it's a term called gang recognized gang. So he's an addict. He was an addict. So he used to approach me and tell me things like, you know, you don't have to live your life like this. And he would suggest that we go to these AA meetings. And I was just blowing him off. And I was getting high one day in the Morris Black apartments. And the way I would get my crack outside of cutting hair or doing odd jobs, you know, I've always been a big guy. So I would basically assault, beat up the young drug dealers, the kids that was just starting out, 12, 13 years old. And I would take their drugs from them. And I was getting high in the Morris Black apartments. And in this lady's apartment, she left out and she came back in and she said, look, I don't know what you did to get this stuff, but it's like 3 carloads of people. All of them got guns and they looking for you. They described you and they're about to kill you. And obviously that was a scary moment for me. I didn't know what to do. So I called Odie, my guy from Barber College, and told him what was going on. And he said, well, you know, I'm not coming in Morris Black, but when I call you back in 5 or 10 minutes, you need to come running up out of there. And he did just that. And that was a defining moment. Not that I hadn't been in scrapes, damn near life losing scrapes, but that right there was a real eye opener for me. I came running out as he told me to, and he took me to a place called Y Haven. Initially, Y Haven, they wouldn't let me in at that moment. They told me that I smelled too bad. They told me that I get so emotional when I tell the story. The lady told me that I had to go somewhere and dry out for a few days because I smelled so bad that if she was to allow me to come in, that it might cause people to relapse. You know, I smelled like alcohol and whatever else so bad. And so I went home and I dried out for like 2 days and they finally let me in. And Whitehaven is in the Carl Stokes building on 60th and Woodland. And I'm sorry, I'm trying not to, you know. It's on 60th and Woodland. And it's set up like dorm room style. And the lady handed me a key. And I hadn't had keys to anything in years. You know, we take for granted small things like keys, but I had burned all my bridges. So the keys I did had, they wouldn't work because all the locks had been changed. I wasn't welcome. So she gave me the key. It was just a small dorm room again. It was just a small front room, very small bedroom, a dresser, and a bathroom. But to me, it was like Taj Mahal because, you know, I had been sleeping on the streets for some years at that point. I had been eating out the dumpster on 30th and Carnegie daily at that point. So for her to, another human being, just to give me the benefit of the doubt and trust me with some keys was monumental. And so that day, that evening, I made a bath. And that's another thing that we take for granted, just being able to take a bath. I hadn't submerged my body in water in years. I mean, it was a few places here and there, like Bishop Cosgrove over on 18th and Superior. They'll let you take a shower, but to physically take a bath, I hadn't done that. So it was very emotional for me, and I sat in the water, and I made it as hot as I possibly could, and I just thank God, and I just begged God to release me from those demons that had ravaged me. And I made a promise that night, November 1st, 2004, that if I was to be released, that I would spend the rest of my days doing whatever I could to help God's people.
That's a powerful testimony, Waverly. And, I've just learned a few things in the past days about the significance of water. And what I'm feeling in my spirit right now was that moment was actually a baptism for you. The fact that you were immersed in water, because that's what baptism represents. And the baptism also represents the feminine divine. So there was something divine about that moment that actually changed your life. I can see how it affects you, even though that was something that happened 18 years ago. But that moment is the reason that so many people have been able to benefit from what happened to you. And it has really been the catalyst for your success. So I appreciate you sharing that moment with us. And it was important for me to allow people to hear that. So again, I thank you for sharing that. And I want to move forward to what your treatment actually looked like and how that was able to deliver you to the place where you are now.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. I definitely think that was a baptism. I hadn't thought about it like that, but that is very acutely accurate, I would say. And so treatment, again, a barber college takes about 9.5 months to a year. It took me a year and a half. So when I got into treatment, it was intense inpatient therapy. So I lived there. And so I wasn't allowed to leave without being chaperoned for, I think, 3 or 4 months. So I had to go to the barber college and basically tell them what was going on with me and pretty much beg them to don't give up, keep my space. And they said they would. And so treatment every day from like 9 to 1 o'clock. It was me and maybe about 30 other guys. And we would just do exercises, talk about how we grew up. And again, Mr. Robinson, I had it. It wasn't terrible when I was a kid, to be honest with you. I was in treatment with some guys that had it really, really bad. And so we bared our souls to each other. The sad part is, I remember one of our counselors, he one day he said, look around, look to the person to your right, look to the person to your left. And he said, unfortunately, most likely those people next to you won't be here. He told us all to do that. And to this day, out of those 30 guys, I can think of 3 that are still clean. And I'm one of them. So that means a lot. So just getting to know myself, getting to just not have to worry about what am I going to eat today, not having to worry about when I did have a place to live, a bill or rent, things of that nature, they just kind of let you catch your breath and deal with yourself. And I'll forever, ever be grateful to Whitehaven. They told me the truth, that saying, the truth hurts. They were brutally honest with you, and they made you look at some things, be accountable for the things you had done. And I got a chance to meet some great people in AA. My foundation is in Alcoholics Anonymous, but I was dual addicted, so I will go to AA as well as narcotics meetings as well. But just the fact that I was able to reset, have a place to just do some intense self-evaluation, that's what treatment was good for. And until you don't really take a deep dive into your innermost being, a person, in my opinion, will not be able to get clean and sober. You got to face all that stuff, all the garbage that you went through, and the trauma that you inflicted, and the trauma that that people inflicted on you. You have to face that. One of my counselors used to say, you as sick as your secrets. So part of the 12-step program is bearing some of the most personal, and reckless things that you've done. Not just to God, but you have to do it to another human being. And that's hard.
Yes. And also, in addition to all of that, you went through a physical transformation. I recall you saying that at one point you weighed 400 pounds, and then I guess some things happened and lifestyle changes perhaps that enabled you to shed that weight and to be a lot more physically functional. So we'll talk about that as well. You're listening to Open Door with Vince Robinson, and my guest this morning, Waverly Willis, the owner of Urban Kutz Barbershop, with a fantastic story that we are pleased to be able to share with you. We will be back with more Open Door right here on 95.9 FM WOVU right after this.
You gotta listen, cause you gonna miss it. 95.9. Those are the digits where you find good music, good conversation, good information. Number one station, taking over Cleveland, not just for the weekend. 24/7, day into the evening. We keep on feeding you, just keep eating solutions on the radio. That's what we be dealing. WOVU 95.9. Don't miss out, you better catch this vibe.
We're back on Open Door with Vince Robinson. My guest this morning is Mr. Waverly Willis, and we have heard a story of triumph over tragedy. Really pleased to be able to share this with you this morning. We were talking about your navigating the world of treatment and recovery from addiction, and I'm sure that there was probably some depression in that. You went through this transformation that occurred as a result of your baptism, and now you are an advocate. And in addition to all of those things, you also were able to shed a significant amount of weight. It didn't get past me that you were on the Kent State University football team. And as you were talking about being at Kent State, I'm an alumnus of Kent State University. And the whole time I was there, we had a losing football team.
Yeah.
Did they have a losing football team while you were there too?
Yes. Yeah. So me and my guys, the crazy part about being on the football team, man, we partied like we won the Super Bowl after every game. I think my first season, we lost every game. The second season, maybe won 2 games. But that was just the culture that we had accepted. I don't know. It was just really weird. Bunch of really great athletes. But I think, again, it was just a losing culture. I'm not sure of how they're doing now, but I hope it's a lot better than what it was when I played.
It couldn't be much worse. So tell us, how did you lose all that weight and how much did you lose?
Well, I was at like 410 at my heaviest, and I went down to about 130, 125. I initially I got the gastric bypass surgery, but prior to that, I had changed my eating habits and I began a workout regimen that I was strict to. Um, Unfortunately, COVID hit and I gained like 50 or 60 pounds back. So I'm going through the mental, emotional stuff, trying to get my head back in the game with that. But that was part of, some of the programming that we do at my barbershop. I can't try to preach and be an advocate for health and wellness, mental health and all that stuff if I'm not practicing it. So we do the blood pressure programs. That was part of me wanting to lose the weight was I had high blood pressure and I was pre-diabetic. So, and the thing is, I began to lose a lot of my clients, like out of nowhere. And I would run into a person's wife or a daughter or a family member at the neighborhood grocery store, and I would ask them what happened to them, and they would say, "Well, he didn't take his blood pressure medication, so he ended up having a stroke or having a heart attack, or he didn't take his diabetes medication." And I took that personal. Again, I made a promise to God, and I'll always adhere or refer back to that I knew that I had some type of influence over these people. These are guys that I would see once a week, twice a month, or at least once a month. And I knew that if I would say, "Have you been taking your blood pressure medication?" Or if need be, I would get on their case about not taking their blood pressure medication. I think that I definitely could have changed lives or saved lives, I should say. And just speaking about our blood pressure program at the shop, we've had people come in and while they're waiting to get their haircut, get their blood pressure taken. And on about 5 different occasions, people's men have had blood pressure that's been so high that we would have to send them to the emergency room. We'd make them skip the haircut, and they would come back, later on, a couple weeks later, and thank me and say that we probably saved their lives, because the doctor, a lot of times the doctor asked them how did they even get there. They was wondering how they were driving around and functioning a normal life, a day-to-day life. So again, I had to walk the walk and not just talk the talk.
You had a moment in which someone close to you actually saved your life. You were at a minority men's health fair and you were looking for Dr. Modlin and he wasn't available. Mm-hmm. So tell us what happened that day and how that resulted in you still being here with us.
Well, again, through my health initiatives, I always want to walk the walk and not talk the talk. So I'm a person that I definitely go to the doctor on a regular basis, unfortunately, unlike a lot of men. So the minority men health fair happens every year. It's on a Thursday. And since I do go to the doctor on a regular basis, I was just going to go down to the health fair and just hang out. I have a nonprofit called the Urban Barber Association, and that's what I do a lot of my healthcare initiatives through. So one of my board members at the time worked at Cleveland Clinic. So I was just going to hang out at his booth and, find Dr. Marlin and have some words with him. But both of them were busy. It was a health fair. They were shaking hands and doing their jobs. So I said, well, I'm at the fair. I might as well go and have some screens done. So I went through all the normal screens. I went and gave some urine. And the nurse came out. They examined my urine. They said, you have microscopic traces of blood in your urine, and we suggest you do a follow-up visit. Again, that was a Thursday. Monday morning, I went back to Cleveland Clinic, got some more extensive tests done. That same Monday afternoon, about 4:00, I get a call. And they say that you have a large mass in your right kidney, and we're going to have to remove it. And Mr. Robinson, I literally busted out laughing because I thought I was, I don't know if you ever remember that show Punk'd, where they play practical jokes. I thought it was a practical joke. And the person on the other end was not laughing. And I said, well, remove what, the mass or the kidney? And they said, both. So I went back to the clinic and I grabbed the x-rays and I took them to my doctor. And he could tell that I was angry. And he put the x-rays up all against the light and he said, yeah, they're going to have to take your kidney. And so, he saw that I was angry. But what he told me was, he's like, you don't understand, Waverly. He said, we could have 100 men in this room right now that we definitely know has kidney cancer. And maybe 5 of them will have any type of symptoms. And so what he was saying was, there are no symptoms for kidney cancer, pretty much. Those microscopic traces is what prompted me to get the extensive test, which led to me finding out that I had kidney cancer. 14 days later, I got my right kidney removed. And so it was by, number one, God's grace, and number two, Dr. Modlin and the Minority Men's Health Fair. Because I asked them afterward, what would have happened? And they said, well, again, the mass was large. Not only was it large, I forget the technical name of it, but he said it was a very aggressive type of cancer. So it definitely would have basically choked your kidney out, and it would have spread very quickly.
So what you've just shared with us really underscores the importance of paying attention to your health and visiting the doctor on a regular basis to do the diagnostic things to make sure that everything is okay with you. You know, one of the big issues that we have in our society right now is the prevalence of food that really doesn't serve our bodies well. So when you look at some of the stuff that we're eating, and then you look at the emotional trauma and pain that we go through, there are a lot of things that contribute to dis-ease in our bodies. And that's one of the reasons that it is incumbent upon Black men to pay specific attention to things that are going on in their body and to not ignore things as they crop up. So kudos to you for paying attention and then taking the necessary steps to ensure your continued existence and success. You mentioned the Urban Barber Association. I also happen to know, based on what I've seen on social media and the interview that I witnessed, that you also have 3 barbershops. So we want to talk about the things that you're doing in addition to enabling folks to get their blood pressure checked. We're going to talk about some of the other fantastic things that you're doing in your platform here, which is more than just the barbershop. It's called Urban Kutz. We'll talk about those 3 locations and give you an opportunity to let folks know where they can come to get a quality haircut when we come back. You're listening and watching Open Door with Vince Robinson on 95.9 FM WOVU. We'll be back.
Hi, I'm Sophie Absolutely.
And I'm Love Lachey XO.
Hey guys, it's Chef Vic with Saucer City.
Yo, what it do? It's your girl DJ Coco Z.
This your boy Lee Tron Twitty with My Smart Home Ohio.
What's good, y'all? This is Affinity with Spellbound Sounds.
Hey everyone, this is Purpose, CEO and founder of Stiletto Boss Women's Group. I love listening to WOVU 95.9 FM.
Welcome back to Open Door. We are rounding third and heading home. The time is just flying by. We've heard so much about your storied past and your storied present, because it is quite a story to tell. And things are unfolding. You know, I was privileged to be in a meeting with you the other day, and I don't want to get into politics because, you know, we have to give equal opportunity to everyone that's happening and everyone that's in political realms. And when they're running against each other, again, you have to provide equal time. But I know that you're also politically active, and you're doing what you can to see that Black folks get the support that they need from local government. So again, I commend you for that. Talk about the creation of your barbershops and what has happened as a result of that.
Well, when I was in treatment and going through barber college, I used to write down notes on what I wanted my barbershop to be. Again, always keeping the promise that I made to God to do whatever I can to uplift people in any way, shape, form, or fashion. So I knew that I did not want my barbershops to be just a place to get a haircut at, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I knew that I wanted to have community-based barbershops. So now at my barbershops, I mentioned that we have the blood pressure program. I'm working now with some entities to, I'm working on a PSA program. I'm trying to get them to bring them buses out, like they say in the streets. I'm trying to get them to pull up so we can do a PSA for the prostate specific antigen test. Because Black men are dying, I think, at twice the rate of our white men. And so I have a literacy program that's shared with, mine is called the I Read, I Lead program. And the mantra for that is, I will outread you, therefore I will outlead you. And that's a partnership with Krishandra Matthews, which you met from Literacy in the Hood. And it's just a library, a small bookshelf, and it's in our barbershops. And the kids that come in, they grab a book, and they read to the parent or vice versa. And when the child gets in the chair, we talk about the book. You know, it's one thing to read, but you have to digest that information as well. So we talk about the book, and if the kid wants, they can take that book and any other book home free of charge. I've done several food pantries and coat drives. Again, Mr. Robinson, whatever I can do to uplift God's people, I'm going to do it. I did open my shops up to, and we did vaccinations at my shop, which, you know, and in my opinion, I was doing what helps the community out. But you would not believe the messages of hatred that I received nationally for doing that. And a lot of times, outside of my health initiatives, and we won't go into details, but my political initiatives, I get a lot of very just angry messages. I'll just say that, you know. But, you know, I always refer to street stuff because that's where I'm from. And they say if you don't have no haters, then you're not doing the right thing. So you got to let the haters hate. So,
well, you know what's interesting about that, you know, oftentimes is the people who are the most critical or the people who aren't doing anything.
Right.
People who complain, but what are you doing? You know, and if you're not part of the solution, then you're part of the problem.
Exactly. I don't let it bother me at all. You know, again, I just use it as confirmation. And, you know, before I do anything, I always dwell over it. And most importantly, I pray over it. And once I get the okay from upstairs, it's a go. And I go hard at everything that I do. You know, I really engulf myself in whatever it is that I'm doing. And I normally get optimum results.
What is it about the barbershop? You know, LeBron James has a series that he was doing from the barbershop. I think Jamal Boyd also has a platform that he has utilized, you know, related to the barbershop. You know, you got beauty salons, you got barbershops, and then you have the churches. And these three entities have been really important in Black society, so to speak, because hair is just such an important thing to us as a people. Yes, so from your perspective, what is it about the barbershop that enables you to create a platform that can be so useful?
I think it's just the barbershop is a place that we can just say, this is ours. This is our space to it's a safe space to do and say what you feel. Historically, from a professional standpoint, in certain entities or certain businesses, a few things aren't supposed to be mentioned. And I believe it was politics, religion, and something else. But at my shops, we push back. All of my shops are multicultural barbershops. So that means any race, ethnicity, and lifestyle are welcome in my shop. So we do have the tough conversations. I'm a Black man, and again, I get a lot of Caucasian, Hispanic, Middle Eastern support as far as our clientele base. So we have had some very heated discussions about politics, the vaccine, and all is welcome if we can do it like adults, because, just because my opinion is different than yours doesn't make it better. It just makes it my opinion. And I want to know how other people think, how other people feel. But, again, everything that I do and after I pray and think about it and then talk to it with some of my mentors, I'm gonna do it if I feel it's right in my heart. But yeah, the barbershop is a place that we can call our own.
And you have 3 locations. I think you mentioned that you just opened one up on the west side, and it's kind of unusual for Black folks to have businesses on the west side, but you talk about the multicultural and the multidimensional aspect of your shops. Tell us about their locations.
Well, my first location I opened in the Cadell neighborhood, the Cadell/Detroit Shoreway area in May of 2008. And it's a mixed neighborhood. And the thing about it, me being on the west side serves two reasons why I'm over there. The number one reason is, again, when I was in treatment, I did not want to go back to the neighborhoods that I frequented on the east side. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to have nothing to do with the east side, to be completely honest with you, because that's where I got high at. And so I was going to move out of town, but I don't really have any support out of town. So that would have been too hard. And as a kid growing up, the only reason my friends and I went to the west side was to mess around with Hispanic girls. And so I knew nothing about the west side. So that's why I went to the west side. And the second reason is I knew when I was making the plans for my barbershop was I knew that I did not want an all Black barbershop. And it's nothing wrong with having an all Black barbershop, but I wanted to have a multicultural barbershop. So today my shops are staffed with various races, ethnicities, cultures, and lifestyles. And again, my clientele base is made up of the same.
You know what's also interesting about that, Waverly, is that the barbershop has been a vehicle to provide opportunity for folks who have been incarcerated. Is there anything in your mission that involves or includes folks who need to get a leg up?
Yeah, you are exactly right. Unfortunately, it's a lot of people out there that have a felony background, and we get quite a few of them in our shop. And what we did some years ago is we comprised a list of good companies that hire people that have a felony background. I definitely need to update it, but we have had great success off of just passing these lists out to, and within the network of the Urban Barber Association, it's basically comprised of mostly barbershops, a few salons sprinkled in there. And when we get information, we funnel the information through the network to give out to the people in our communities. And through these lists, we've had some really good success stories of people finding good quality jobs and or job training.
Okay. You know, I was having a thought as you were talking about cutting your own hair earlier in our conversation, and I noticed that you just happened to have the bald look.
Yeah.
What was it like for you to part with your hair after all of those years?
Ooh. It was hard. And now my name is Waverly Willis, but people call me Wave for short. When I was a kid, Mr. Robinson, I had the nicest brush waves that anyone would ever could imagine. And I used to be like the regular young guys walking around with the brush and brushing my hair, wearing my do-rag. And God, in my opinion, has a sense of humor too, because I was very vain about my brush waves. And again, cutting hair when I was a kid, I cut everybody in neighborhoods hair, including the men that would be going bald. And so I vowed that I would never be that guy. And it's nothing wrong with it, but I just did not want to be that guy that was, I didn't want like the horseshoe type of deal going on. So I started losing my hair when I was at Kent. And so it got too much. I got too much hair loss. And so the very first time I cut my hair, first time I cut it bald, I literally was in the mirror with tears running down my cheek. But I always said, I don't want to look like George Jefferson, even though he's one of my heroes. I just did not want that look. And so that's what you see today is the bald head. And that's what I've been rocking probably since I was about maybe 23 years old.
Okay.
I lost it real early.
That's a long time to be without it, man.
Long time, brother.
God
got a sense of humor too.
I got a few years on you, and I wrestle with that inevitability. When you look at the scalp and you see spots here and there, and you're like,
I checked you out. You good? Hey, and I do have those clients that I said, I after all these years, I'm your friend first now, bro. And so I had that conversation like, look, man, I always want to keep you as a friend. I might lose you as a client, but it's time, bro.
Yeah.
It's time.
Time for it to go. Well,
you can keep coming to me, but for real, you can do it yourself.
Okay. Well, speaking of time to go, it's about that time for us. I just want to know in the minute that we have left, what's next for Waverly Willis?
Well, what's next for Waverly Willis? I am working on some political stuff, so just find my social media and you guys can find that. I'm not going to say anything out of respect for your show here. Look for those PSAs. I'm really working hard with the Cleveland Clinic and the local hospitals to try to get these buses to pull up on a regular basis to our shops in the Urban Barber Association to give men these PSAs. It's unfortunate, sometimes you literally got to drag people by their hand to get them to do something good for themselves. But I'm used to it and I'm up for the challenge. And I'm teaching over at La Barberia. I've been there for a few years, and I wanted to do that because I wanted to just give back to the next generation of barbers coming up. In my opinion, the industry had became kind of watered down and unprofessional. I think people had started coming into my industry looking at it like it was more of a hustle rather than an esteemed profession. And if you look at old barber pictures back in the day, those guys wore ties, to work. And that's where I wear a tie to when I cut hair every day.
Yeah.
So,
it's amazing what a tie will do when it comes to getting respect from a person. So I thank you for that and share that with a lot of the brothers out there because they need to step up their game. The sagging and all that kind of stuff, I'm not going to cast any dispersions on it. But when you pull your pants up, put on a belt and put on a tie, you're going to get a different response from whoever you're dealing with. Waverly, it has been a joy to have this conversation with you. Much success to you, and we'll look forward to more great things coming out of Urban Kutz and Waverly Willis. Thanks for joining us. And thanks you to the listening audience. Know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Make today your best day. Peace.
Peace.